what, Washington is making his way across the Delaware and his no crabby island. Tell you what. So Bill, again, it's crazy to me how often it's like I like Bill. Bill's a cool bunny sunshine to chase after for my Z coin for the most part, and I generally don't argue with his gorilla coin in terms of the computer or Microsoft things and all that weighted plate on market indexes of approximation of algorithms. Here you just stretched out point here, this thing comes back around on a triple body problem. Anyways, but the basically the math, and I do them for station terminal setups. It's like, well, there's a reality in what when you look at a general relativity book for the first time. Here's a telescope. We're going to start to bend that light and do some things with it. We're going to amplify it with analog systems, the housing of the circuitry, some basic designs, and the standard models for that stuff. Figure out which one of those works or doesn't overheat a system, because heat is a carbon is a C12, C30, C11, C33 stuff about free radiant energies of. I kind of cut out there when I got to the energy council and stuff. We had Bezos and stuff in there. It's close. I love the worker function, honestly, on it, but there's an approximation on those indexes that goes to Bill's numbers off of this approximation from when you start to fiddle around with these numbers from the prison system, it starts to get real fast and loose about colleges and the students and the NP problem working different. When you go zero, right, Bill? Inside of there, about some of the radical designing functions that need to be put inside of that system, because basically we're pulling out the singularities. We're saying there is not one K singularity from the Y indexes of the appropriated times of what something like global warming would index to against anybody else's M2 Trident model, the home versions, the setups, why this company would get it right now versus anything else. And that's a pretty easy index to prime off and figure it out and kind of go, I'm going to hit that one with the general heights of an area and say, that's how tall they are, and just go with that. And then we're going to start to really see off of, well, that was the acoustic wave flutters were clearly another dark matter calculation, which is energy. It's a form of it in an IH capitalization. For some reason it's wobbling and staying inside of there for what? Well, Bill's not talking about Epson sphere types of energy generators. What I do in the stone mill is one photon around a centralized singularity, which is my action, a thermaler, a Sawyer, a operator, a manager, a president of a CEO of a thing, right? There's still, for me to emit this light, I'd have to keep putting energy in for calories on the approximation of a thing, which is day life stuff, into get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, check your wobbles count at 9:30 in the morning when she fires up and gets ready. Make sure you're in there doing what you need to do, Doomslayer. Oh, Ultra Nightmare on 100%, right? Dogs barking, the old lady's coming at you, everything's all crazy. And really, for energy though, for psychology and just being able to see, persons don't resonate a wave function. They come in with a wave function, and if you're quick with the intuitiveness of it, it's a physics problem. It's to say, I can test that. I could say maybe they're in a bad mood about a thing. Any way I can slip that in there on that anti-up quantum operator kind of notation that is a machine that effectively traps carbon, right? That temperature differential, it kelvins it off. And it also gives me an aspect of free radiance of that thing in this field while looking at it from here and factoring it in this relative form. I should be able to see some cosmic radiation background lights. Just general in the form, well, that was odd, normal day. This situation kind of thing on an index was a little weird. Wonder what this neutrino lines for the nemesis around the planets, and how all those elements and its compositions tells us water. 1420 to 1720, Bill. Helen Keller. So I'm having some fun, obviously. Oh yeah, it's one of those little symbols every once in a while I see a floating bill. What's going on? World dominator here. Yeah, COVID plan about numbers of peoples and cheeseburgers and yeah, all right, N1 half. We'll start programming like that from here. In there it's just going to be the stone mill parts, and maybe a couple of those are actually guys that I can say for the approximations of the circuitry design. Why the hell the LED is way over here in the circuitry of it all. All right. Yeah, well, so 1 plus 1, right, Bill? When you get there, though, it's like your portfolio. I mean, this thing is going to start to do some things on you. So in overall, it's like generally when people make the approximation on that's not your granddaddy. I ain't some wily hillbilly, and you never know. You just gotta check certain things and observation numbers, and like I said, boy, that universe can get hot. Ooh. Wrong factors of a thing, wrong situations of where you do them, when you do them, can temperature and situations. So it said for me, like Elon's or Bezos' business is a free energy generating general relativity factory. And you want to do that to certain positions. Well, they have a big camp at the low end of the industry of like, that's the minimum wage governmental standard. Most of this is gnarl bits or do something. I'll smoke you on that stone mill if you want to start unionizing a federal base to some of this, which you are not going to like my index any longer. Of course, the special forces always keeping it tight over there, running around with that training platform. So when you index things based on temperature, me as a person, quantum physicist, special forces guy, training timelines to change out and index. It's to pull out carbon. I'm generalizing states. I'm capitalizing on that physical shape, CT paradox, in that composition, that there's a rule for the military that this dude gets it when it's in this structure, and you are one of these people over that, and if the same person scored for there, it's an easy check no. In terms of what the situation is, to say, elements work that way. They'll change colors, or there's some observation ever so subtly on a Y index that changes that thing radically in terms of, cutting potassium, superoxide on there. Could have just sat on the counter one day in certain situations. It was exposed by an acid, or XY in time functions was a little different. We're talking all kinds of F gases and stuff inside here. This Bose-Einstein condensate acoustic flutter earthquake death generating machine. Give him hell, Bill.